And Mayor, we're ready when you're ready.
Jennifer,
Right
can you
here.
see our screen, Jennifer? This is Cassandra.
We can.
Okay, just making sure. Thank you. All right, we're on camera and we're on meeting, Chief.
All right. Know me?
Yes, sir.
Good. Good afternoon, everyone. Can you hear me?
We can.
All right. Just let me know when you ready for me to go.
I think so. Yes, sir.
We're ready.
All right, sir. Cassandra, go ahead and hit it. Our first item up is going to be the duty weapon replacement. Right now, this is a current firearm, is about 10 years old and experiencing the common wear and tear. We're moving from the Glock 45 to a smaller frame, a 9mm, which is lighter, easier for most officers to grip. It features the optic system, and ammunition-wise, it'll be cheaper across the board. And this is a replacement for the current Glocks that we operate under. Any questions? All right, the second item on the list is our new community outreach prevention programs. Right now, fully funded current initiatives and expanded outreach events. Most of our programs right now is funded through the Lens Foundation, and the new programs that we're asking for will cover the current programs that we're actually already in the midst of implementing in the community. So additional funding will provide flexibility to respond and emerge to emerging community needs and by hosting events as needed. The third one is the community service unit, 2 non-sworn employees to supplement the police operations. The proposal is for one more non-additional employee. This is a civilian to be employed as a community service officer in the fiscal 26 year. CSU will reduce the workload of sworn officers by offloading non-law enforcement tasks, improve response times, create a pathway to policing by developing entry-level opportunities for local youth, increase agency efficiency by maximizing resources and deployment without additional sworn officers staffing it. And CSU revised the former safety service concept that we had several years ago, which had a similar mission and has been greatly missed. The next program is the new classroom trailer and Connex training. And this is up for discussion. Replace the current leased classrooms on the weapon range. For purchase, that's the amount. It'll be a lot less if we actually leased it. The current trailer is 17 years old, and in this repair, CBD has worked with real estate to evaluate purchasing versus leasing a replacement trailer at the weapons range. The proposal for a separate Connex unit for firearm cleaning as part away from the classroom space where officers eat lunch. This additional space separates firearm-related contamination from areas used for instructions and meals. The next program is a digital analyst for forensic services. One additional analyst position for the existing unit. Technology impacts almost every investigation, placing extensive demands on our digital forensic unit. This analyst will reduce turnaround time and backlog, enhance public safety through technology, succession planning, and continuity of services. And the last one would be elder victim advocate position. Previously granted grant funded, currently filled by an employee that's currently on staff. We propose support older adults who are victims of crimes, including abuse, fraud, neglect, and exploitation, Positions have been grant funded for 6 years. FY 25 funding reductions led to only a partial support. Shifting costs to our budget. This position enhanced safety and well-being for our vulnerable segments of our community. All right. New programs. The additional budget item. The new programs start with the body worn camera replacement. This is life safety needs and mandated by law. Proposal is to replace the existing body cameras due to expiring warranties and discontinued support. The BWCs are a life safety necessity and are required by law in South Carolina. They serve as a critical accountability tool and are vital to the police operations. And I talked about this next one a little bit last night, the Governor McMaster's School Resource Officers Decree. What we're looking at is 11 schools in the city of Charleston without dedicated SROs currently, and we are eligible for state grant. On Wednesday, August 27, he announced that the state has secured over $29 million to provide SROs in every school currently without one. For the city of Charleston, this does translate into funding for 11 additional SROs in the remaining public funded schools. We intend to seek the 11 additional billets for support to expand our to support this expansion, no cost to the city. It was going to be required.
Improve it, Chief.
Any questions? Concerns? Comments?
You're nailing it, Chief. Keep going.
All right.
We're done.
I think that's it for us, Mr. Mayor. That's the extent of what our budget cycle will look like for FY 26.
Any questions or thoughts from other members of the committee? I mean, it seems like what I've seen, what I saw beforehand is it's pretty well thought through, pretty concise, and a lot of community outreach, which I think will be very well received and is a good investment. So I was generally pretty excited about what I've read, but happy to answer any or turn it over to other committee members.
Yeah, I have a question, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, good report, Chief. The grant that's coming down from I guess to the feds, to the state, to us, is that for 1 year or multiple years or what?
Yeah, it's every year, sir. Currently we got like 4 that the state provides SROs for currently. What he did, he just increased that billet to accommodate every school that didn't have an SRO. We can't go back and supplant, but all these new schools is what he's accommodating for in this new funding for the state.
Good deal. Thanks a lot.
Yes, sir.
And Mr. Mayor, Councilmember Gregg had his hand up. I don't know if he still has a question.
That Councilmember Waring asked it, so I just answered it. Thank you.
Great minds think alike.
That's what I always say.
Sorry, I keep going on mute. Any other Councilman Appel or Seekings? Any questions or comments from y'all?
I'm good. Thank you, Chief, for your requests.
I'm good as well. Keep up the good work, Chief. Thank y'all.
Thank you.
All right, well, let's move on then to Chief Curio.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for the time. Let me go ahead and share my screen. Okay, so the fire department's request this year, before I start with the actual request, I always like to review our mission and vision just to make sure that we are pointing where we need to be. So, our mission is excellent people providing exceptional service. I think we accomplished that from our hiring processes through our promotional processes, the people we've got in the department. And our vision is to create a safer Charleston, and that's through the service, fire delivery, medical delivery, or anything. Just like we were talking about last night, making sure that we are an all hazards department that can address any issue. So I think everybody knows by now, when I submit a budget request, it's usually pretty robust. And the reason is that we have 8 divisions in the department. There's a lot of needs in those different divisions. So I submitted 30 things to BFRC. They totaled $9 million. Now, of course, I know the city budget is not in a state to give the fire department $9 million, but I like to have those things on the table. Looking at the requests that we've made, I'd like to highlight 5 things in this presentation that I think warrant discussion and warrant moving forward in the budget process. Now, everything that I put in the budget package has been discussed with BFRC, and we've discussed priorities and tearing down and everything you would expect of us. So the first are the life safety requests in the department. Every unit in the Charleston Fire Department carries a thermal imaging camera. Obviously, I think everybody knows what we use those for, but it allows us to basically see through smoke and look at heat signatures, helps us locate victims quickly, helps us locate the seat of the fire quickly. And should a firefighter become lost or disoriented, it helps that firefighter get out of the structure. So we have large, robust cameras that we keep on each apparatus. We'll need to replace some of those just as a normal replacement item. The second bullet point, we're also asking for additional cameras that are a lower cost point, but would allow us to equip every single firefighter working every day in the city of Charleston with a thermal imaging camera. Again, should a firefighter become lost or disoriented, having this technology is a game changer to get a firefighter safely out of the building. We're requesting funding to place Class A foam on several apparatus in the city. What this does is basically allows us to take a deep-seated fire and put a wetting agent on the material to help with extinguishment. We're asking for replacement of cardiac monitors and other advanced life support equipment, diagnostic equipment for our mechanics to diagnose issues with our vehicles. Newer vehicles require this diagnostic equipment in order for us to do the preventative maintenance and also do the repairs. If we don't move to this equipment, we're going to have to outsource repairs, which are more costly and they are not as time effective. We're also requesting body cameras for the personnel in our fire marshal division. And we work with the police department to make sure that if approved, we would be using the same platform that they use. Moving on to the second request, it's a comprehensive health and wellness request for the fire department. The first bullet point is the Peer Connect app. We have the first year of this app on a grant, and basically our firefighters download this on their phones. And if they are ever in a situation in which they feel emotionally overwhelmed, just through the app, we can get them help either through our internal peer support team or through a medical professional with just the touch of a button on their phone. And this is down to seconds to get our firefighters help that they need. Maybe it's an overwhelming call that they've just been to. Maybe it's a cumulative effect and they're feeling distraught over things that have happened in their career. We have already had the suicide of an on-duty firefighter in our department a couple of years ago. And it's one of the reasons why we are so hyper-focused on the health and wellness aspect of our profession. The second bullet point is cancer screening for firefighters. It's more enhanced screening that we would place in effect as part of our annual firefighter physicals. So these would be things like the screenings that you've probably seen in the news lately. And then working with our healthcare professional at NUSC, increased screenings for particularly on-duty firefighters. Just to paint the picture for you, the firefighters have an increased risk of certain cancers, and they are directly related to the work that a firefighter does. So just generally, prostate cancer, we have a 50% higher risk. Testicular cancer, we have 150% higher risk. Bladder cancer, we have a 100% higher risk. Skin cancer, a 100% higher risk. Lung cancer, a 40% increased risk. Multiple myeloma, that's a 200% increased risk. In kidney cancer, we have a 100% increased risk over the general population. So we just want to make sure that we are approaching this proactively so that should one of our firefighters have a cancer that hasn't been diagnosed, we want to provide the opportunity for those things to be caught and for those things to be caught quickly and treated. The third bullet point sort of dovetails out of the cancer screening, knowing that we have an increased risk of several different types of cancers. I think it's fair to assume that the environment we put firefighters in as a normal course of their employment sets them up in retirement to probably have to deal with cancer that other people in city employment are not going to have to deal with. So I would like to work with HR and whatever the rate is that a retiree pays for healthcare. I would like for a firefighter who has retired from the department to pay 50% of that rate. Now, in the years that I have been with Charleston Fire Department, I can tell you we don't have a lot of retirees. In my 7 years, I'd say we probably have less than 15 retirees. So I think that's a conversation that should be pretty easy to have. And as our workforce transitions into retirement, I think it sets them up knowing that they did a good service for the city while they were here, but knowing that that service comes with a cost that they may pay after retirement. So I'd like for us to consider that. This wellness request also has a mental health component and training all our firefighters in mental health and resiliency tactics. We would like to expand our gross decon initiative that was approved last year, and we'd like to do that by purchasing personal protective equipment, containment bags, and other decon equipment. We'd like to make sure that we invest in the physical health of our firefighters, so we have numerous requests in this package to replace fitness equipment in the firehouses. We'd like to request a therapy dog. The price point on that is $25,000. Within the fire service industry, it has been shown that using a therapy dog to connect with firefighters after a traumatic call pays huge positive dividends. So this is not something that the Charleston Fire Department is just coming up with. This is quickly becoming an industry standard for fire service. And then we would like to equip our peer support team with new equipment, a vehicle for the team commander so that that person can get from point A to point B quickly and make sure that the mental health our firefighters need would be addressed very quickly. And then technology needs associated with that, an iPad, that type of thing, and then uniforms. The third request is for 15 firefighter positions. Specifically, this would be staffing for ladder 103, which would go in the Cane Boy section of Charleston. Eventually, when Station 22 is built in the Jack Primus area of Cane Boy, we would put that unit physically in that station. In the years prior to that firehouse being built, we were working on an alternate location to house this unit. And as soon as I got the temporary location locked down, I'm perfectly happy to come back and talk about the plan for that. The next request is incentive pay for special operations personnel in Charleston Fire Department. We have 472 positions in the department. Not all of those positions are in operations, but we probably have about 400, pushing 400 in the operations division. Of those 400, we have 142 members who do extra duty. And some of those extra duties are in the areas of hazardous materials, the Marine unit, urban search and rescue, the wildland unit, tactical emergency medical support, which is a group that responds when there's, say, an active shooter threat. Our peer support that I've already talked about, honor guard, our peer fitness team, and our incident management team. So currently, these 142 people who do special operations duties for the department, they have their normal assigned duties as firefighters, and they do all these special operations tasks as just extra duty. But they don't get any money, they don't get any incentive other than the satisfaction of the job well done. So what we have found is that it is becoming increasingly difficult to staff our special operations units with volunteers. So we'd like to pay them depending on rank. What we're proposing is that a firefighter get a 2% bump in pay, an assistant engineer get a 3% bump in pay, an engineer get a 5% bump in pay, and a captain or a battalion chief get a 7% bump in pay as an acknowledgement for all the extra work they've got to do to maintain proficiency in these areas. If we did this, it would be capped at 7%. If you work solely on a non-operational team, that would be, say, a peer support team or an honor guard, you would just get a flat 3%. But for the last several years, we have put an initiative forward to try to get extra pay for special operations. We haven't been successful yet, so we keep changing the proposal. I've talked to BFRC. The most important thing for me is that we acknowledge what these people are doing. So if the proposal doesn't shake out to be these graduated percentages, as long as we can do something that acknowledges the extra work and the extra effort that personnel are doing, I think that would be a huge win for the department. The next request is to further build out emergency management. I think everybody remembers that fire department absorbed emergency management in 2024. Currently, we have one emergency manager. We have 3 emergency management specialists. So the request is to add 2 additional emergency management specialists, to upgrade the position of emergency management specialist and just bump it up 1 pay grade. We know that would require an updated job description to fully vet. And we'd like to add 4 vehicles to make sure that we can have an adequate plan in place for emergency response. And that is it. Again, as I said, there are several other requests, but these are the most important to the fire department. And I am perfectly happy to answer any questions you may have.
Any council members? I mean, I've got a few, but I want to let other folks go first. All right, I'll kick it off. Chief, I think it's a very thorough budget. I think all of the points that you've made are very reasonable and logical. But as you pointed out in the very beginning, 30 asks with an aggregate total of 9 million plus is just not feasible, just given all the other needs all the various departments have. So we are going to need your help in prioritizing. And I know you've worked with BFRC, and you could argue that every single one of these is essential and smart and good for the city and our public safety. But the reality is we're going to have to pick and choose. And so, I just wanted to put that out there and just be transparent about the realities.
Oh, absolutely. I never expect that everything we put forward is going to be funded. Just want to make sure that we try to address everything in the different divisions in the department. We're already working with BFRC to trim this down and talk about funding priorities. So what was presented today is what we came up with.
Right. Any specific questions from the other committee members? I mean, I think where I am on it is we need to get a little bit more color on the other departments and sections. And, this is, as y'all are all well aware of, having done this more frequently than I have at this point, we need to look at the aggregate and then start figuring out where the most critical asks are. I think while that's happening, if there's ways to fine tune your number and numbers, that would be extremely helpful for us, because I don't think we want to be in a situation where we are picking and choosing because everything's a key priority. So I need y'all to put a little bit of thought into that. And I'm sure there'll be other questions, but we need a little bit more holistic view, at least I do, before we start locking down things again.
We'll have it pared down very quickly.
Got Councilman Seekings.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Chief, for your presentation, your thoughtfulness on it. I agree that, sort of looking at priorities from you is going to be helpful to us. I'm interested in one of the divisions, subsections that you talked about, wanting to beef up some of that's emergency management. To the extent that you all add some additional members to that team, how do you envision sort of dividing the labor in there? What kind of things are they going to be working on and attacking from the emergency management side? And clearly, one of the things that's on my mind, and probably others too, is how we respond to short-term but more frequent water and flooding and managing those events.
Yeah, Chief, if you wouldn't mind me letting talk about just kind of broader citywide for Councilman Seekings and others there, and then you can fill in the more details as it relates to emergency management. But Councilman, you bring up a really good point, and I'm going to give real kudos to emergency management, fire department, and the police department for working together on fine-tuning these operational processes and procedures so that they're all working together. Now, one of the things that's helping to better define that is in the police budget and this budget, making sure that there's no overlap. And I think they've done a pretty good job of that. But there are opportunities for potential other city employees to be utilized, for barricade deployment, for example. So where does that come into effect, and making sure all that's synced up and there's no duplication. And again, they've done a lot of scrubbing on this. There's a little bit more work, I think, left to do. But it's not just personnel. It's things like this grant that the police department has out there for additional cameras, right? That would be pretty an incredible asset to have monitoring these various areas that flood more regularly. So we are taking a very holistic approach, but a very aggressive approach, because it's continuing to flood pretty regularly, and we've come a long way from where we were, but still plenty of work left to be done. And I just want to say, really do appreciate the commitment from the fire department, emergency management, and the police to get in sync on this. So with that, I'll turn it over to you, Chief, again for more detail.
Well, I think you pretty much covered it, Mayor, but we're getting into the specifics of a plan that would use city employees who maybe have work that is tied to good weather. And obviously, when we are putting out barricades, it's because the weather has turned foul. So just tapping into that workforce and having them go around and deploy barricades very quickly. The trick there is what do we do after hours and what do we do on the weekends? We're still working through that, but we are coming up with a good working plan, and we'll be moving forward with that pretty quickly. As it relates to the specific request that was presented, one thing that we have observed in emergency management, and this is no fault of the group that we have working in emergency management, is that planning wise, we are so far behind that it's an extremely heavy lift to get us where we need to be. To date, the documents that we need, a continuity of operations plan, for example, is not in place. So the lift initially for this team is going to be to pitch in and make sure that the documents and the plans that we need to the city to run smoothly when the rest of the world is not running smoothly is what they're going to do. And eventually, when we get these plans and these annexes up and they've been exercised and we feel comfortable that we have a competent way to approach different disasters, if you will. And it doesn't have to be just a rain event. It could be an earthquake, which we exercised a little bit last week. Could be a severe rain event, like we discussed in the MEOC earlier today. But once we feel comfortable that we can handle those, then part of this team will transition to an actual response model so that when we do need to activate the new out, they can get it very quickly. But if it's another emergency, if it is something, a large apartment fire in West Ashley, we'll be able to get emergency management on scene and handle the coordination with Red Cross and other third-party agencies.
Got it. What other questions are there? I'm making this pretty easy, guys. This is a lot of paper here. All right. Well, Amy, any other thoughts, comments from you?
Not necessarily. We have another meeting next Wednesday. We'll go over the planning section and parks section.
Okay. All right.
I do have a belated question, Mr. Mayor. I mean, I understand everything as you presented them, Chief. This is more looking down the road type question. You know, as the plans for the Port Authority property begin to come more clearer, maybe a year from now, I don't know. Are we looking at all at that site for potential fire station out parcel?
We weren't looking specifically at the ports.
Union Pier?
Yeah, Union Pier, yeah.
We weren't looking specifically at that land. We were looking at some a little further up the peninsula as an eventual station that would get us over to the name of the island that escapes me. That would get us over to Union Island, and then another infill station over in the medical district. But we hadn't looked at the Union Pier site. We should be able to service fire and EMS wise. We should be able to service that area with our central station at Meeting and Wentworth. And the upside to having a facility at Union Pier would be the water access. But there are a couple of downsides to that location also.
Okay. All right. I'll just
Be expensive too.
yeah, well, yeah. Just thinking about it, in other words, sooner rather than later kind of thing. Again, a little bit north of it may be even better. Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
All right, any other questions from members of the committee? All right, guys. Well, again, Chief, I appreciate everything. And if y'all could just, work with BFRC and me and any other interested committee members on fine tuning that in preparation of us taking a look at the larger budget, certainly would appreciate it. And then one more question from Councilman Ware.
Yeah, there's not for the fire. I didn't answer the police chief. Maybe y'all can put this on a notepad, but some time ago, Ms. Morton, we had talked about this. This was when Chief Mullins was here, about putting cameras on the Greenway and potentially the Bikeway. And I thought we had pigeonholed some money for that, but then the pandemic came in, and because all that had to be put towards keeping people from being furloughed. But so I wanted to ask the chief. I see him on there now. Thank you, Chief. About possible cameras on the Greenway and Bikeway. That would, at that time, we were thinking about trying to get something with Dominion, so you can have cameras back at police headquarters to surveil those pathways. But and I don't know whether I didn't mention that to you, but before we get through the budget process, I would hope we could pigeonhole something.
Okay. Thank you, Councilman. Yes, sir. And we just had a meeting about that as part of our whole strategic plan. One of the primary issues we got on that particular area of the city is the infrastructure and capabilities. So we have to find suitable cameras that can maintain and do what we need to do and just pick out the locations. But it's definitely a part of the whole strategic plan. We're automating West Ashley and some of the barrier islands with that capability. So, yes, sir.
All right. Thank you. Thank you.
All right, guys, anything else? Certainly appreciate everybody's time, and we'll look forward to jumping on the call next week. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.